What's up, everybody? Superman is over, and this is going to be a spoiler review because I'm just going to do spoilers. So hopefully you saw it already. Can't believe you haven't seen it by Tuesday. So here's the thing. I did a 1 hour and a half spoiler review with Luke Rojas, a friend of mine. We talked about it. He's about 22 years old. I'm 41 now. So that's up on Patreon. I'll put the link in the description box below and in the pinned comment section below this video. So go check it out. It's our complete spoiler review, hour and a half Superman. But I'm going to give you mine right now real quick. So one of my issues with it is that I was expecting a huge moment where the James, which is like the Jerry. Oh God, I can't get all these people right. I want to talk about Jerry Goldsmith because I've been talking about him all week. Okay, calm down. John Williams score, I thought was going to play a huge role, and it didn't. It was like a minor role, and I was also expecting a big moment to happen. Now, I actually edited a moment in the movie that I thought that would work pretty well in, and I sent it to a few people, and they really enjoyed it, and they were like, yeah, that would be way better if they had done that. And if you watch the moment without the music, you're like, man, this is kind of lame without the music. So I feel like they missed on the music, and they really sold you on the music is, oh, my God. And half the reason I think I went to see this movie was because I was like, yes, that music, it's Superman. So the first thing I want to say is the music is underwhelming compared to what I thought it would be. I think it was like a 6 out of 10 for me. I thought it was going to be an 8 or a 9 or a 10 or something like that, and it was like a 6. So that was an issue for me. Superman himself is almost perfect. He's a little bit more naive and a little bit more like temper. He's a little, I just call him naive and young. He's a very young, naive Superman, even though he's 3 years into being Superman already. Whereas Christopher Reeves was a very sort of wise, calm, and collected, mature Superman. So I think this Superman is the closest to the Christopher Reeves one, which is the one that I love and a lot of people love. And so I like that. But he's definitely more of a younger version or a naive version of that Superman. So Superman, I think they got really, really good. James Gunn got him very right, or very close to right. Closer than, you would think in this day and age. So thank you for getting Superman pretty much right for the most part. There are issues, there's problems, and we're going to talk about them. There's no doubt about it. But, overall, I liked the movie. I think it's possible. I've heard people say this is the worst James Gunn movie, and they might be right. Like, as a movie itself, this may be one of the worst James Gunn movies, but it's like still good because to me, James Gunn doesn't have like a bad movie. It's just sort of like very safe and average and solid movies that James Gunn pumps out, these 7 out of 10s at least. And if he's got a few 6ers, fine. I think this one falls into the 7 category barely, And I think, I watched Guardians of the Galaxy 3 last night because I actually had never seen Guardians of the Galaxy 3, partially because of when it came out and when I was busy and I knew it was going to be kind of sad, and I didn't want to see any more superhero movies. I was done with superheroes. But we watched it last night, and it was very sad, but also awesome, right? It's never completely sad. It was just it was a really good story. Like, wow. Guardians of the Galaxy 3, I mean, I almost think that's an 8.5 out of 10 movie. To me, and I'm not a big Guardians of the Galaxy person, but I am a big Superman person, and I'd probably give Superman a 7 out of 10. So, yeah, that person might be right that it's one of his weaker films overall, but as far as Superman, it's pretty good. I think Lex Luthor and Superman are both kind of like a little more naive, angry boys in the movie. There's one point where Lex gets really serious in the middle of the movie, and I'm like, nice, they're making him more serious and scary. But then he kind of reverts back to just yelling, angry guy. I think they did an okay job with everything, but they really could have nailed things more if they'd spent a little more time on some things. The reasons Lex Luthor's doing things. I think if you don't know Superman, that's the other problem too, is I think if you don't know Superman, I think at this point there's a lot of people that may not know Superman. Like, they don't understand Superman, or they don't know it, or they don't care. And it would have been nice to reintroduce them into what things mean, because they may not know that. They may not know what that means. I'm assuming that James Gunn is just like, listen, everybody knows what kryptonite is. Like, it's a saying in society now. Like it's like, it's like, dude, what do you like? You're like my kryptonite, bro. It's a mess, And people just say that. But I think that's the last generation, or one of the newer. I don't think the 10-year-olds and 15-year-olds maybe know that. I don't know. Maybe they do. Maybe it's just something that always everybody knows. But I don't know. But I'm assuming he's like, well, listen, everybody knows what kryptonite is, so we don't got to explain that at all. Everybody knows Superman comes from. We don't got to explain that at all. Everybody knows Lex Luthor and Superman. We don't got to explain it all. I mean, I feel like that's what they're going on that assumption. But I feel like you may need to rebuild that world for some people. And you could have done it in a fast way at the beginning of the movie, or maybe like after the first 5 or 10 minutes. But I would have done a montage at the beginning of the movie. I would have done a very quick montage of everything. Boom, 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 boom. Kind of like in Star Trek 2009, because I really want to compare this Superman to Star Trek 2009. It is a action popcorn, fast-paced, alternative version of the thing you love, retold. And a lot of it is familiar and fun, but a lot of it is different and really different, right? And very whatever. So, like in Star Trek 2009, they introduce you to Kirk as a kid, Spock as a kid, and you get these personalities, of what they're like as kids. And then they transition into an adults, and we start to learn like who these people are. Like Spock is this logical, guy who's battling whether he's human or Vulcan. He's two different species. And you really get that explained to you. And you really get explained to you who Kirk kind of is, although it's whatever. I'm not going to get into how it's a different dimension or a different universe. But bottom line is they kind of introduce these people to people that may not know who they are. And you find out about Kirk's father dying at the beginning. And so many people brought their, not to say women are not, I don't want to be like, whatever, women aren't Star Trek fans, but there was a lot of husbands. Maybe there was some wives too that brought their husbands, but I think it was a lot of husbands who brought wives to that movie. And the wives are like, I don't really watch Star Trek, and, my husband loves it or whatever. I don't know. I'm going to see it. But when that opening scene happened and Kirk's father sacrifices himself and the baby is born and everything, wow, like those women in that theater were like crying, and they didn't even know anything about Star Trek. You know what I mean? And suddenly they're invested. It was brilliant. And I think that this Superman, I don't know why that just started playing. I think this Superman was lacking maybe that. I mean, I kind of like the way it opened with Superman like he was. It was an interesting opening, but I think it was missing that montage. It would have been nice if we got the montage, of Superman landing, da-da-da. And maybe it would have ended, that montage could have ended with, maybe Lex Luthor does something horrific, right, at the end of the montage. And then we pick up with Superman, bloodied in the snow. So I don't want to be like, I feel like there's so many people that wish that they were involved in the movie so they could work on it or make it better. And I'm no different. I wish I was friends with James Gunn and I could have come into the editing room and said, here's what I really, really want to see, and here's what you really need to do. I'm telling you, James, this is what we have to do. Because I would have asked for probably that. I would have asked for the music moment that we didn't get. Whether it's the opening title or whether it's, in the movie, which I would have done it in the movie. They didn't do it. And then I would have probably done one other thing, but but there were other people that want to rip the movie into like doing 60 other things. And I think that's crazy. I think overall, like he was so close to like a really good, like I'm going to give it an 8 or a 9, but it's just not quite there. I really enjoyed it. I liked it, but there were just a few things that like would have really, like I would have been like, yo, I want the Blu-ray. I want the 4K. I'm going to see it again. And he didn't it was just missing a couple of things. We didn't quite get it. I think they really could have. I think one way that they could have done things is, and I'm just spitballing now. I wasn't thinking about this before, but now I am. You know, at the end when the kids are holding up the flag for Superman and they're hoping he saves the town or whatever, the country, it would have been cool. It was cool that it wasn't Superman that showed up. It was like the Justice Gang or whatever. But would have been interesting if they had been thwarted towards the end. So once Superman got done fixing the city and wrapping up the city issue, that the Justice Gang was in trouble. And some kind of whether a metahuman or an issue happened, and the army was able to like lock up the Justice Gang somehow. And so they were saving all those people and pushing all the armies back, and it was awesome. But then there was like a last minute, like, wait a minute, something else. And so Superman does have to show up at the very end, and they could have played the music and done something cool. So it was like you were expecting it, but then it didn't happen, but then it does happen. And then he goes back to the city. I don't know. Or like he freed the Justice Gang, or like, and then he went back to the city. That would have been cool. And I just think it was missing something. And then that would have showed that Superman saved them this time. Because at the beginning of the movie, they were always saving him and helping him. And even at the end of the movie, they were kind of helping him, and he needed help. It would have been cool at the very end of the movie that Superman, he helps everybody. Like, he's the one that helps everybody after, you know, getting beaten up most of the movie. So there was just these little things that I'm surprised that weren't done. Like, it's shocking almost to me. They just missed on these little couple of things that would have made me give this thing, instead of a 7 out of 10, I would have given it an 8 or maybe 8.5 or something. And instead it's like, 6.87, you know, and some people are not happy with it. Some people like it. Some people hate it. You know, it's kind of like, it's kind of all over the place for a lot of people. And I think it's a movie that I will watch again, but it's not one that I'm dying to watch again, but it is one that I kind of want to watch again out of curiosity. I think it's pretty good, but it's just it's hard to say. It's not something that I'm like, I've got to see that again. I want it on Blu-ray. It's more like, I think I want to see that again at some point, and I might buy that. And so you can see how that's difficult, because sometimes it's like, nah, I'm probably not going to watch that again. Or I'm definitely not going to get that on Blu-ray, but maybe someday I'll watch it again. It's above that. So it's like there's been a lot of that recently where I see something and I'm like, yeah, I'm never watching this again. But, you know, Superman is in the category of like, yeah, I'd watch that again, but it's like I'm not dying to. And it's too bad that that's not the case. So, anyway. These are just initial thoughts. I've got a lot more to say later. Mr. Terrific was reminding me of Robert Downey Jr. from Tropic Thunder. It was very bizarre. I thought he was like doing an impression of that. There's definitely some allegories or like references to, you know, current political situations. I mean, basically, that country, we're stopping the arms dealers. There was no like, I mean, I'm surprised people aren't getting more upset about like the two countries and pinning like a political thing on it. But I think it's all ambiguous enough that you don't have to, you know, that there's nothing, you know, directly being said necessarily. So I don't have a problem with that. But, you know, it's good. I don't know. Anyway, if you want more, I'm going to do another video on this. I'm just so discombobulated right now that I'm going to finish with that. I want to see what you guys have to say in the comments, if you have anything to say. And if you want to hear my whole 1.5 hour spoiler talk about it with Luke, we both talked about this for, like I said, a long time. So feel free to go listen to that. I'll put the link pinned to the comments down below. And thanks for subbing. And we'll see you guys in the next video. What'd you think about it? Tell me in the comments. And if I missed something, tell me, man. Just let it all out if you can. I want to read everybody's stuff and maybe make a video responding.